Welcome to The Beauty Shift, proudly sponsored by Karenique.
For thicker, fuller hair at every age and every stage of a woman's life.
I'm Michelle Phillips.
I'm a celebrity stylist and beauty expert, a national TV personality, and self-confidence coach. And over the years, I've worked with some of the most recognized faces in the world, helping them look and feel their absolute best inside and out.
That ultimate inner outer wow. Now that's true beauty, my friends.
Welcome back to The Beauty Shift. I'm your host, Michelle Phillips. I'm so happy you're here with me today because this conversation is one that I have been so looking forward to sharing with you. My guest is not only someone that I deeply admire, but she's also someone I'm honored to call a dear friend. Her name is Nancy Levin. She's a best-selling author, master coach, and highly sought-after speaker who has been featured on Oprah, Psychology Today, and even has a TEDx talk. And through her best-selling books and transformational coaching programs, Nancy is helping thousands of people rewrite the rules they live by, step fully into their truth, and create lives and relationships that truly light them up. And in today's episode, we are going to dive into a subject that is both timely and life-changing: boundaries. Creating boundaries that stick, breaking free from people pleasing and overachieving. So if you've ever felt stretched too thin, silenced your own needs, or struggled to say no without feeling guilt, this conversation will give you the tools and inspiration to reclaim your power, stand confidently in your worth, and design relationships that are uplifting, supportive, and deeply aligned with who you are. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and please join me in welcoming Nancy Levin to the show.
Nancy, I am so thrilled to have you here today. I adore you. I also want to talk about, just right off the bat, how grateful I am for you. Honestly, when I got the book deal at Hay House and I was invited to fly out to work with you, Louise Hay, and Cheryl Richardson for a weekend, I had a lot of imposter syndrome going on. I was like, wow, I'm a makeup artist and a beauty expert, and I've been on TV for many, many years, and I just wanted to write a book to help women feel better about themselves, not just put lipstick on every day. And I share this idea and get the book deal with Hay House, which was so exciting to me. Working with Louise Hay, you, Cheryl, Wayne Dyer. But when I actually arrived in San Diego to work with you all, I felt like, who am I to be this Hay House author? Who am I to share this stage with Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer? I was terrified, but I knew it was what I wanted. I knew it was part of my path, my destiny to help women on a very large scale. But I still was scared out of my mind. And then you and I had a conversation at lunch. It was like the second day I think we were together. And I just felt so safe opening up and sharing that, a lot of my book was born because I went through a really bad abusive relationship, verbally abusive. And I was sharing my story of how I may have been extremely successful and on television and doing things on a grand scale, but deep down inside, I was, struggling with self-worth. And that's why I was attracting people in my life, not just romantic relationships, that mirrored my lack of feeling not good enough. And then here I was as an author feeling the same way. And I thought, wow, I still haven't licked this. I've still got work to do. And then you shared that you were going through the same thing. And so I just want to thank you for that, because I really feel like I mean it. I just felt like as soon as you and I had that conversation, I realized I was home. I was in the right place. That Yes, I am still working through things, but it's that journey of sharing that openly and authentically that is okay. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be growing and learning as you're teaching, because sharing our experiences, like we're doing here on this podcast, is so important to help others feel that they're not alone in this struggle. And then, from there, you offered me the opportunity to start speaking on the stage with Wayne and Louise and you and Cheryl. And so I've always felt like you were just such a huge part of who I am in terms of what I do today. And, really sharing this on a grand scale and helping me find that confidence to do so. So that's a 10-minute gratitude. I didn't mean to make
Well,
this all about me, but it's really about you. And I feel like so many people that are here today with us are here for a reason, because this is a super important discussion.
it's so true. And as I was, sort of thinking this morning about meeting you today, I was imagining in my mind, like I could take myself back to the moment that you're talking about, that first conversation we had where we really were willing to share, here's what I'm going through, and then here's what I'm going through. And we were able to find such common ground. And in that is freedom, because in that we're not suffering in silence, we're not suffering in shame, secrecy, all of that is what breeds that feeling and that belief of being unworthy.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we were able to share so transparently with one another, I remember it well. And then I was also thinking about, I have such a clear image of you on stage in New York at the Javits Center.
Oh,
And you gave a talk and you came out all in black, and you were wearing no makeup. And you remember, yeah. And you were
yes.
like, and what did you say? You had 10 seconds to have a first impression or something like that.
Yeah, I said, yeah, because that's how I usually start my talk, is that I stand there for 7 seconds and I say nothing. And I
Yep.
have no makeup on and I'm in a,
Yeah.
very plain outfit, because
Yep.
people think, here comes the beauty girl. She's going to come
Yeah.
out and talk about beauty.
All glam.
But
Right.
I'm like, no, I'm going to sit here for 7 seconds. And in those
Yeah.
7 seconds, um, people are judging me. They're checking me out. That's my first impression. And so I think a lot of people, that's what we do, is we show up typically how others want to see us.
And that's the thing. And so, especially going back to childhood, we are, like you said, we are taught to be the good girl, not to make waves. And really what we're doing is we're learning how to package ourselves to be palatable to everyone else around us. And we learn from a very early age what's okay to be and what's not okay to be, what brings praise, what brings punishment. And so we begin crafting very carefully this persona that we put forward into the world. And for decades, I did this. I, was projecting this image of perfection to the world. I didn't want anyone to know what was going on behind closed doors. And I was very carefully managing the perception of others, giving them a very specific lens to see me through. And here's the deal. When we are expending that kind of energy, wearing a mask and the cape and the armor, we are exhausting our own
Absolutely.
life force.
Yes. Oh,
And,
yes. It's
yeah,
exhausting.
it is exhausting. It is exhausting. And the most surprising thing that I learned was that when I was willing to first tell the truth to myself, and then tell the truth to the people around me with whom I felt safe. The people who I feared revealing myself to the most were the ones who rallied around me the fiercest, and really created a scaffolding for me to rebuild myself from the ground up. And the resource, the energy that returned to me, or maybe even came into me for the very first time, is what fueled me in my own reinvention.
Yeah. And that is, I mean, it's so profound. And for those who may be thinking, I want that for me, but I don't even know where to begin. And I had a conversation yesterday with someone who's just going through a divorce.
Hmm.
Um, and then she got into another relationship quickly after that and realized it was the same exact person, but in a different
Exactly.
body, which is what I
Exactly.
did too many years ago. And then I've been asked to attend a get together with some girlfriends next week because they said, Michelle, we really want you to share your experience with our friend in our group of friends because she's in a relationship that's a toxic and abusive and doesn't know how to get out. And it comes down to us. We're not the
Yeah.
victims. We actually created this, which is
Yep.
really hard to
Yep.
say to
It is.
people because people go, oh, no, he was the jerk or he was the, and it's not just romantic relationships we're talking about here. It could be personal friendships. It could be people that we're choosing to work with. Um, what was it for you that really flipped that switch to where you said, okay, something's got to change here? And then what was it that you did to start to make that change?
I so appreciate you asking it this way because ultimately, just like you said, our relationships are just one long continuum with a revolving door
Yeah.
until we make the change because we are the common denominator in all of our relationships. And
Right.
so we do need to be willing to look within instead of point a finger without because when we are in the place of blame and victimhood, that's where we get stuck. And so this transition into responsibility and empowerment is where we need to go. So, a few things. First, I want to just share this because I think it's really important for everyone listening to hear this. And I imagine this is going to resonate with your audience because I know it resonates with mine. We can have all of it together on the outside. From the outside, we can look like we've got it all going on. We can look successful in our work life. We can look successful in relationships. And then on the inside, everything is crumbling and falling apart. And this is far more common than I think most women are led to believe. And so we need to stop that misalignment. We need to stop what I was sharing before about crafting this persona to put forward and then feeling like a shit show on the inside. We need to come back together so that we are in alignment with ourselves. The way we do this is getting really clear on our boundaries. So, when I talk about boundaries, first I'll share that my definition of boundaries is simply the limits that I set around what I will or will not do, will or will not tolerate, and will or will not accept. So my boundaries are very personal to me, and yours are very personal to you. My boundaries are what's okay with me, what's not okay with me, and how am I going to take care of myself? Because here's the kicker. If your boundaries are being crossed, you are the one crossing them. And if that is news to anyone listening, just breathe through this. Because again, what this does is it puts you in the power seat, it puts you in the driver's seat of your life. Because boundaries are not restrictive, they're not depriving, they're not constrictive. Boundaries are actually expansive. Knowing our boundaries, setting our limits, and honoring our limits is how we carefully choose and consciously curate the content of our own lives. So again, if my boundaries are being crossed, I'm the one crossing them. And it's no one's job to uphold my boundaries. It's all mine. It's my job to honor, uphold, and respect my own boundaries. And so, in order to even be able to set and hold boundaries, I have to come back to what is okay with me and what is not okay with me. Where in my life am I currently tolerating the intolerable? Where am I accepting the unacceptable? And begin from there to turn the antenna inward to be self-referenced instead of all of the external people pleasing, peacekeeping, and not rocking the boat and fearing conflict.
Ugh. I just wanted to stand up and cheer like 5 times during that lesson that you just shared. Um, Number one, because yes, I feel in my youth, I'll just say up until I was 40, it's
Yeah.
changed profoundly in the last 18 years. But I also see this in so many women's, behaviors. And this is not a judgment. I just relate to it, where we show up, let's say in the beginning of any relationship, and we ignore
Yep.
our boundaries and we ignore um, the red flags that show up, which are only the red flags what we will not or don't want to deal with in a relationship, right? And we then get into this relationship, and 6 months to a year down the road, all of a sudden, we're in constant conflict with whoever we're with because we're really angry at ourselves because
Yep.
we've abandoned ourselves and we have not shared honestly that something bothers us. And that's what I was talking yesterday to my friend who's going through this divorce, and she said, I don't understand why I just can't speak my truth when something bothers me. And then she lets it go and lets it go. And then she realizes she's not in a good relationship. It's a toxic relationship. And it's toxic because we're choosing and allowing people in our lives that are really just mirroring who we are and what we think about ourselves. So they're there to show up and say, yeah, okay, if you think you're not good enough, I'm going to completely show you how you're not good enough over and over again. I mean, there's just so much to unpack here, but it's really simple. It's like you said, it's being true to who we are and what we want. And that takes a lot of
Yeah.
guts.
I mean, so what I feel is really important to also name here is that we come by these beliefs about ourselves honestly, and they happen when we're very young. So these are the shadow beliefs, the limiting beliefs that get embedded in us when we're very young, under the age of 10, based on circumstances and situation and events around us.
Right.
And we begin to draw conclusions about ourselves based on what's happening because we don't have an adult capacity to process and digest what's happening in any other way other than to draw a conclusion about ourselves. And so these shadow beliefs form at an early age, and these beliefs sound very simplistic, almost childlike. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I am bad. I don't matter. I'm not important. I'm unlovable. And really, they all begin to funnel into a singular belief of I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of money. I'm not worthy of success. I'm not worthy of happiness, whatever it might be. And then because our beliefs are magnetic,
Mm-hmm.
we will draw toward us, we will find evidence. We will draw toward us relationships, circumstances, and situations that reinforce and corroborate what we believe about ourselves. So many people think that a sense of self-worth is going to come from the outside in.
Yes.
If someone outside of me deems me worthy,
Yes.
then I will believe I am. And that is backwards because the self-worth needs to bloom and blossom within and then radiate outward. Self-worth is an inside job. And the truth is, we expend a lot of energy trying to prove and earn our worth. And that is not something that is even necessary
Mm-mm.
because we are each of us inherently worthy by being here. And we've bought into this idea that we have to do something in order to prove or earn our worth. For me, I had, I believed my worth was tied to, first of all, how many gold stars of validation I could receive from the
Right.
outside world. And I received them all. And
Oh
then,
yeah, me too.
oh
I was
yeah, right.
perfectionist
Of
chaser. Oh
course.
yeah,
Of
perfect,
course.
perfect all the time, at least
Right.
striving to be. There's no such thing.
Right. But the truth is that everything we're seeking externally needs to be resolved internally first. So no
Hmm.
amount of gold stars is ever going to fill the void within. And I thought I had to do for others, achieve, produce in order to earn my value and my worth. And everything changed when I found my own self-worth within, and I was no longer letting someone or something outside of me determine my sense of worthiness.
Yeah.
And so, in terms of, your friend, for example, if an early imprinted belief is, my voice doesn't matter, or I'm not good enough, if that gets imprinted early, we are going to go through our lives believing that to be true. But it's really important to remember a belief is not a fact.
Right.
And your limiting shadow beliefs are in place only because you believe them.
Mm. I love that. I just want to take a quick moment to thank our amazing sponsor, Keranique, the go-to brand for women's hair growth solutions. If you're looking for healthier, thicker, more beautiful hair, no matter what hair concerns you have, Keranique has got you covered. Their products are clinically proven and dermatologist recommended, offering a complete hair care system, including treatments, shampoos, conditioners, and supplements to help you achieve stronger, fuller looking hair from the inside out. So whether you're starting your hair regrowth journey or maintaining gorgeous, healthy locks, Keranique has a solution for you. And as a Beauty Shift listener, you get 25% off site-wide. All you have to do is head over to store.keranique.com and use the code BeautyShift25 at checkout. Thanks again, Keranique, for supporting the Beauty Shift and helping women everywhere feel confident and beautiful. So now let's get back to the show. Yes, it's just, well, change your thoughts, change your life, right?
Right.
But again,
Yep.
at the same time, that belief system has to come with an emotional, um, it's an emotional belief system too. It's not just a thought, it's something that you internally really, it takes time to build that and to believe that you are worthy, to believe that you are good enough. And when I was training to be a life coach, which was a very long process and a process that in order to become a really good coach, I needed to do the work within for me. And then
Same.
I have a master coach that I work with because I always feel like every good coach has a coach, right?
Every coach needs a coach.
Oh yeah, because you got to
Yep.
take, and Louise Hay used to always say this is a lifelong process. It's not a one
Yeah.
and done. You do the work and it's over. But I remember my coach saying to me when I had gone into the next relationship that was just the same person in a different body
Yeah.
that was really not healthy at all for me. And I said to her, I need to change whatever's going on with me that is
Right.
attracting that. And
Yep.
she said, welcome to the first steps of breaking the cycle. Because this was a
Yep.
cycle that not only that I had, but my mother had, and my mother's mother. And so she said to me, what are the things that you're really seeking in a relationship? And I said, I want someone that's really trustworthy. I want someone empathetic. And I went on down the list and then I said, I want someone who loves me unconditionally. And she said, do you love yourself unconditionally? Do
Right.
you trust
Right.
yourself?
Right.
Do you have empathy for yourself? And I was like, that would be a no. If you think about it, I beat myself up. At the time, I was doing all of these things that were self-sabotaging belief systems that were very negative about myself. And so I started my journey of making my shift by waking up every single day and saying, what does Michelle need today?
Exactly.
And taking care of myself as if I would my own children. because I would take care of them, if they were hurting, if they were going through a difficult time. I wasn't giving myself that same love and support. And once I did, everything shifted, and I no longer allowed anybody in my
That's right.
life, I don't care what kind of relationship, no one in my life that was going to talk down to me or treat me in a way that wasn't respectful or kind or loving. And it was that simple exercise that was a continuum that I had to keep working on. And to this day, there are times where I'm like, oh boy, you're going backwards, Michelle. You know intuitively that this isn't a good relationship. So step back, and take a look at this. So, I mean, I share that because I feel like a lot of times when women come to me, they're coming to me for a shift in looking better. They want to look better because they're going through a
Mhm.
divorce or a bad relationship. Okay, I want to look better so I can attract the next one. And then we go through the internal shift that needs to be happening. Yeah, it's like
Right.
it starts from within. It's
It
it's
starts
very,
from
very
within.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that I just want to share, sparked by what you've said. First, in terms of all the red flags we avoided, that we
Hmm.
ignored. And especially as women, we are sort of programmed to want to be picked and chosen. And so we can go out on a first date, if you will, and completely abandon our sense of, do I want to see this person again? And put all the energy into wanting that other person to want to see me again,
Right.
regardless of how I feel. And I see this over and over and over again. So it's, what do I need to do to show up? And this is when we become a chameleon. This is when we go into the, who do I have to be in order for you to want me?
Hmm.
And then we start doing all the things that cross our own boundaries. We laugh at things that aren't funny. We don't we don't raise our voice to something, or don't give voice to something that may offend us. I have even had clients who say, I went out to eat and ate something that I'm allergic to because I didn't want to tell the truth. I wanted him to like me.
Wow.
That's the degree to which we can go to cross our own boundaries. And so we
Right.
have to really pay attention to this. And, a few things I'll add here because,
Hmm.
with you saying, waking up and like, what does Michelle need today? Absolutely. And this is why I love saying I am the most selfish woman in the world,
Oh, I love that.
because we've put selfish, we have disowned selfish to such a degree, and we have put selfless on a pedestal. And in selfless, in the word right there, less self, we disappear. And the truth is, we are both. We are selfish and selfless, and there's a time and a place for each one. But if we keep disowning selfish, we are actually keeping ourselves from harnessing a tremendously potent power that exists within us. And so I like to say that I think selfish, self-care, and self-love are three sisters whose job it is to support us in honoring ourselves.
Yes.
And so from there, then we can begin to ask ourselves a few questions that will help us get clear on our boundaries and return to, bring the antenna back to me. What do I need? What do I think? What do I feel? What do I want? Instead of the antenna being outward. And so one of, the first question I'll pose here, and everyone listening, just notice what even happens in your body as I say this. Are you willing to give yourself permission to consider your own needs at least as much as you're considering the needs of others? At least as much, because this has to be the baseline.
Yep.
Because right now, most of us have our needs on so far on the back burner, if at all. to even get clear on our boundaries, we need to put attention on ourselves to really get clear on what it is that we want. And this can be really unfamiliar, especially for women. And then we go into that, well, isn't that selfish? And so the invitation here is to ask yourself, are you willing to give yourself permission to consider your own needs at least as much as you're considering the needs of everyone else around you? At least as much. That's the baseline. Because the truth is, most women don't even have their own needs anywhere near them. And they may not even know them. I know for years I prided myself on having no needs. Then we need to go to the place, are you willing to give yourself permission to consider your own needs more than you're considering the needs of others? Even more than you're considering the needs of others. And then the real boundary ninja move here is, are you willing to give yourself permission to consider your needs first
Yeah.
before you even consider the needs of others? And nowhere in here did I say, don't consider the needs of others.
Right.
So, but it's a both and, it's not an either or. And we tend to operate from the place of either or. Either I consider myself or I consider someone else. And, a sort of illustration of this that I often share, because I first sort of shared this as a metaphor until I learned for how many women this is actually real life. So we set a table with fine china and silver and crystal, and we serve a big juicy steak or a big juicy tofu. And we are in the kitchen in the dark eating the scraps and crumbs over the sink.
Mm, you gave me the chills,
Right? And we do
right?
it over and over again. We do this literally and we do it metaphorically.
Right.
It is time to take our seat at the head of the table of our lives.
Yes.
Period. End.
And not be afraid. So
Right.
it's the fear factor that comes into play to where it's all about, I'm afraid, bottom line, to really step into my power, speak my truth, be who I am, create boundaries and say, no, this isn't acceptable, or
Yep.
I adore you and I love you, but I am not able to do this today to help you. Putting your needs first because we're afraid of rejection, what people will think of us, that they won't want to be around us anymore. How do you help people
Yeah.
get through that hump?
Exactly. So here's the deal. If you are fearing external judgment and criticism, the truth of the matter is you are living in judgment and criticism of yourself. When I am clear and clean and in right relationship with myself and all parts of me, when I am living in alignment with my wholeness and my truth, I have no Velcro for someone else's judgment or criticism to stick.
That's so good. That is so good. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh. I mean, I keep getting goosebumps, because I love how you are so specific in sharing this message to make it just so clear and resonate with us, right? Because it's, even if we're evolving and we're doing this work, there's always a level of, okay, there's new opportunities. We're growing, we're
Yep.
changing, we're shifting. And then, boom, you can find yourself back in that place of, am I not being true to myself? Am I
Right.
not listening to my inner voice, or that gut feeling that's coming up saying this isn't right? Because I'm thinking about even professionally. We're
Yeah,
afraid that if we
absolutely.
say, no, this isn't acceptable, we don't want to take on that project or that client, or
Yeah.
something just doesn't resonate with us. But if we do that, then we're not going to have the job or the money or the whatever. And I found now that when I get really clear and I think, I don't think this is a match for me with a potential client, it's okay because I'm making room for something that is a match.
Yeah.
But at the time, we don't see that and we get locked into that fear.
Right. So again, one of the most classic ways we cross our own boundaries is saying yes when we want to say no.
Yeah.
And we say the knee-jerk yes because we don't want someone else to be angry or upset or disappointed. We want to look like a hero. We have a whole host of reasons, or we feel obligated. We have a whole host of reasons why we say yes. The only reason to truly say yes is from desire.
Yeah.
Because when we say yes, when we want to say no, we will go right into resentment. And here's the other thing. We create chaos
Mm.
in our own lives when we avoid our own truth.
Mm. Oh, I love that too. And some people don't even realize they're addicted to that chaos.
That's right. And that's exactly right. You can have a commitment and an addiction to that chaos that keeps you stuck in a place of not inhabiting your own life and bringing your own vision to fruition.
Wow.
And so this comes,
No, go ahead.
I say, and this comes back to why I will harp on this integration and acceptance of our own wholeness so that I'm no longer pushing parts of me away. I'm no longer pushing away selfish, for example. And I'm owning I am this and I am that. I am everything. Instead of believing that the only way you are going to love and accept me is if I hide some part of myself.
Right. And you, speaking of the wholeness, I've heard you recently talk about a relationship, a true partnership are two people that are in their own wholeness, which is what I have now with my amazing husband of 10
I
years.
know.
I'm just
Yes,
like, what happened? How did I find
I
this guy?
know.
Well, it happened because I did this work.
That's right.
And
That's right.
we are two people that are whole individually, working on it, not always perfect. There's no such
Yeah,
thing as that. But we are true to who we are individually and what our individual needs are. And then coming together, we complement each other. I'm not seeking my husband's whatever moves he makes or whatever he does is what my happiness depends upon, or waking up every day wondering what his mood's going to be, so that determines my mood. And so recently
exactly.
I've heard you share this with John Holland, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, that is something that is so important, I feel, for us to just hone in on, and strive for.
Yes, because most of us are taught that that the goal of relating, of relationship is harmony at all cost.
Right.
And harmony at all cost comes at a great cost to us because what that ends up doing is keeping us in that loop in our head of what do I need to do or say to make everything be okay?
Right.
And then we're out of our authenticity, we're out of our honesty, we're out of our truth telling. And instead, I really look at the truth of intimate connection, whether it be romantic or not. But the truth of intimate connection is the wholeness of you in your truth is welcome. The wholeness of me in my truth is welcome. If we have conflict, it's simply an illumination of our differences.
Right.
But it doesn't need to be about me pulling you over to my side or my beliefs or my vision and you pulling me over. What intimacy really is both of our truths are welcome here. We
Yes.
are each we are each present in our own wholeness and our own truth.
Exactly. It just because it doesn't, I like that, the harmony seeking. Like people think that a good relationship is that you're always in harmony. No, there are times that my husband and I have very different beliefs about something, and I don't necessarily think what, he feels is right for me. And so
Yeah,
I'm not going to base my decision on that, but I'm open to hearing that. But there's a total difference to who I was 20 years ago, where, with my ex-husband, I was so fearful of rejection that I would just say, oh, okay, that's what you think, then that's what I'll do. you know, or I would
Right.
take a poll and ask everyone else what they thought before I could make a decision.
Yes.
Again, why was I miserable? Why was I deep
Yep.
down inside depressed? Why was I angry all the time? It just internally, no one knew that was going on with me. Everyone thought on the outside looking in, my life was perfect, which
Right.
it was far
Yep.
from, like we talked about in the
Right.
beginning of this podcast. But it's so important that I just feel like a lot of the clients I work with, they say, well, I just don't think there's anyone out there for me that gets me or that's going to make me happy. And that's when I am like, that's not what we're striving for here. That is the complete opposite of what we should be. And I'm not saying should in terms of shoulding all over people and making shaming anyone for feeling that way. It's just how we've been programmed, and it brings us the unhappiness that we have inside that we feel like we just can't fulfill.
Right. And whenever we're in a relationship of any sort, once again, where we think that the only options are the extremes, so that we don't speak our truth because I'm afraid they're going to leave me. I'm afraid they're going to abandon me. There is something far greater at play here.
Right.
Because if we are afraid of something that extreme in a relationship, the relationship itself is not built on a solid foundation.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to go all the way back to the basics to see the foundation that the relationship has been built on and
Hmm.
question that
Right.
instead of focusing on the the conflict at hand.
Right. The surface level issues that are showing up that have nothing to do with what's actually going on underneath. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you talk about, I really want, before we, end this amazing conversation, I want to talk a little bit more about shadow work because this is something that is relatively new for me. I know Debbie Ford. I never really got to work with her. She was
Yes.
um, she had passed, I think, in 2013, and I was at Hay House for 2011,
She,
but I didn't get a chance to work with her directly. But I know her work was very profound and very widely received around the world. And now you were very close with her. You've kind of picked up her work and you're sharing people the shadow work. And so I would love for you to just talk about that a little bit.
yes. So, yeah, Debbie passed in 2013, and I was very fortunate to be friends with her. And in my work as the event director at Hay House, produced many events with her. And it was 15 years ago. It's interesting that you said 15 and I'm saying 15. So I think I've got 5 years on you. I just turned 60. And so 15 years ago when I was 45 and I was leaving my marriage, that's when I first started working with Debbie uh, consciously. And so that was really the turning point in my own life. And even though I had my dream job at Hay House and never thought I'd leave, I decided to hire one of Debbie's coaches to help me through my own process of leaving my divorce. And then I decided to enroll in her life coach training and certification program, which I then did really just for me personally.
Right.
And then on the other side of that training, I was unrecognizable to myself. And I really felt this call to help other women get free. And so I made a plan to ultimately leave my position at Hay House, which is now over a decade ago,
Okay.
and went out on my own. And when Debbie passed, she passed the torch to me. And we had long plans of working together. And the timing of her death and the timing of me leaving my job was just off enough. And I found myself, in my own coaching practice, working with clients, and I had so many already certified coaches coming to me for one-on-one coaching. And I kept hearing over and over again, I'm certified as a coach. I don't know how to get a client, and I wouldn't even know what to do with a client if I got one. And I kept hearing this over and over. I also kept hearing from other clients coming to me saying, I want to be a coach like you. How can I be a coach like you? And I had nowhere to refer anyone because Debbie had passed and her institute had closed. And so that's what led me now 6 years ago to opening my own training and certification program. Doubled down and steeped in the shadow work and in the coaching models that I had created as I used Debbie's work as sort of a jump off point to then evolve further.
Wow, fantastic. And so every year you do invite new students
I do.
to
I
your
do.
coaching academy because
I
that's
do.
what happened to me. I went through a program with a life coach to improve my life, and I shifted so profoundly that I thought this is the epitome of what beauty is. It's
Yes.
really knowing who you are and what you
Yeah.
want and overcoming the fear and obstacles that are keeping you from living that ultimate life. And that to me is beauty. The most beautiful woman in the room is the most confident woman in the room. It doesn't matter what they look like.
100%.
Yeah, so I applaud you for that because now you're helping other people share this message and teach others.
Thank you so much for joining me today with this powerful conversation with Nancy Levin. I hope today's episode inspired you to quiet that inner people pleaser, reclaim your voice, and begin to create the life you truly deserve. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend who needs to hear this message. And if you haven't already, please be sure to follow the Beauty Shift so you never miss an episode. And one more thing, if you're ready to take this work deeper and step fully into your confidence, your beauty, and your self-worth, head over to my website, michellephillips.com, and explore my resources that are free for you to download, programs and upcoming events so I can continue to support you on your journey. And until next time, just remember, you are beautiful just as you are today. Sending you lots of love. Thanks again. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Karanique, for thicker, fuller hair at every age and every stage of a woman's life. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please feel free to share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to receive my free beauty and wellness gifts, just go to my website, michellephillips.com. I also invite you to join my social media community on Facebook and Instagram, Michelle Phillips Beauty.